Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are kicking off this regular season week 2, basically, in the NBA here, Nate, with a pretty full slate on a Monday night. Do want to make sure you're liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We are bringing you videos each and every weekday of this regular season, including our player props video and these game videos as well. Want to make sure you also head over to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great written content for you guys all season long, as well as our odds finder tool that you can go ahead and use to make sure you are shopping all of those NBA lines and player props to the best of your ability across those U.S. sports books. As I said, we've got a pretty full slate on things tonight. Nate, let's go ahead and get into all of those lines for Monday night in the NBA.
Yeah, 8 games to choose from here, so plenty to bet on. And we got, going through the lines real quick here, Pacers are plus 12 at the 0-3 Sixers, Magic plus 7.5 at Knicks, the Raptors plus 3.5 at Heat, Jazz minus 1.5 at Rockets. We'll break that one down in a separate video. The game we're talking about here, Nets plus 1 at the Grizzlies, total of 233 there. Celtics are minus 6 at the Bulls, Spurs plus 8.5 at the Wolves, and then the Nuggets minus 5 at Blazers. But yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is it's a big game. It's Ja Morant at home, and it's the Grizz coming off a loss, which makes me want to back them because this is a team that doesn't usually string together bad performances in the regular season. Completely baffled by the Mavs, who have the second best defense once again under Jason Kidd here, just rolling that through, somehow finding a way to limit Ja Morant. And Memphis is extremely dependent on him right now, especially with Dillon Brooks still out, Jaren Jackson Jr., of course, out indefinitely. The Grizzlies' defense has been pretty terrible without those two guys and without DeAnthony Melton. So there is some intrigue on the over here. It's already gone up a half point since we've basically been talking here. I don't know if I'm sold on that high of a total, but I do like the Grizz here because the Nets just aren't a team with much backbone, and now literally they're trying to roll Ben Simmons out at power forward or center. I don't know how you're going to stop a team that's been leading the league in paint points the last couple of years. They're not there yet through 3 games, but with Ja attacking, I mean, if there's nobody there to stop Ja once he gets into the paint, it should be easy money for Memphis here. They've done a great job finding guys, of course, to fill in for JJJ with Santi Aldama, I believe his name is, John Conchar, just people you've never really heard of who are stepping in and being that pick and roll partner for Ja. They do have the ability to spread the floor and to knock down shots. Brooklyn's been terrible guarding the 3-point line, and that's where Memphis has been making their hay so far this season, spreading things out around Ja, who just really has looked like a terror. And I mean, it was still no Seth Curry for the Nets, but Joe Harris out there, that's frankly another pretty easy defender to pick on between him and Kyrie. And we're not seeing Simmons play with much confidence on either ends of the floor. The Nets went 13-18 straight up against the West last year. They went 24-21 straight up after a win. So I like the fact that we're getting an even line here because the Nets won their last game and the Grizz lost. But I think if it had gone the opposite way, this line would be inflated far more for Memphis at home, where they're 35-13 since the start of last season. I mean, this is a huge home court advantage, and it's a Nets team that, frankly, is pretty morose most of the time. And if things don't go their way early, like we saw with their opener against the Pelicans, they could fold.
Yeah, easily fold. You're totally right. I mean, you called Simmons under the other day, and to your point, not only did the Grizz, is this line somewhat impacted pretty heavily actually by their recent loss. It was Saturday when they got spanked by 41 points to the Mavs, and we talked on this show last year, the year before, we're not betting NBA Saturdays. We're also really not betting NBA Sundays. Things get kind of weird over the weekends especially when you get a bunch of games like there were on Saturday with teams on back-to-backs. You don't know who's playing. You don't know who's going to come out and care. So it's kind of difficult to bet those games. But it was a 41-point loss on the second night of a back-to-back for those Grizz, and now they're 2-1. Like you said, all the stats for the Grizz, I think we expect them to regress or progress, whichever way they are right now, to their mean in terms of what they do and what they do well, right? You talk about fast break points, causing turnovers, crashing the crap out of the offensive glass, getting offensive rebounds, getting second chance points, and all that kind of stuff. That they're going to come back to that for sure. Especially, Brandon Clark's going to continue to get more minutes this season as well, which is only going to help all of those, hustle stats that they're going to be so good at. There's still time for them to come to that. But the key here is Ja Morant is probably on another level. If some of the voters had their way, he'd probably win Most Improved Player again. He's averaging 34 points a game on 32 minutes right now, and was, I believe, 11, 12 to 1 to be the MVP at the beginning of the season, and already got shot out of a cannon to sort of catapult himself at the head of that award already through 3 games. What I do like an over in this game. I think we're seeing that at the beginning of the season. We kind of talked about this as well. In the first 3 or so weeks of last season, there was a rule change also that was getting a lot more pub than the rule changes that have occurred this year, obviously with things about the foul calls and not wanting to send guys like James Harden to the line for flopping all over the place. And I think we saw a lot of that lead to actually even more points in a lot of ways, as guys weren't going towards that and they were just playing the game normally. I think it regressed a little bit, but I like totals at the beginning of the season to be over. And I like guys to be able to put the ball in the net and defenses to still be sort of figuring things out for themselves, to be honest with you. So, that's why I would prefer an over in this one, but that's not where I think the value lies either. I do think Brooklyn's in shambles enough right now on defense, and the fact that both of these teams kind of follow each other all over the NBA stats site. If you look at the stats pages, they're very similar in terms of how bad they are in certain areas right now. They're both shooting a lot more threes than I think they care to, which is probably only going to increase with Joe Harris entering the lineup back again for Brooklyn tonight. And neither of them are really defending the paint, really defending that well in general. So like I said, there's opportunity for points, but at the end of the day, this Memphis lineup is just so much better. I don't know what you're getting from Ben Simmons still. We don't. And this is going to be a team with, the guys that are playing the most minutes for them right now in terms of the front court, with Royce O'Neal and Nick Claxton getting, the majority of those minutes. There's nothing there to scare you as you're trying to, work your way around the court. You can use any space you want. And once Ja gets into the lane, who's going to be there to even, alter his shot, much less get in the way of it?
Yeah, and those second chance points that the Grizzlies thrive off, I think you pointed out that Brooklyn's still struggling to deny those. I mean, interesting that Brooklyn's 27th in defensive efficiency so far. Memphis is 29th. I don't know how much of that is the schedule you faced in such a small sample size, that Memphis played a run and gun game with Houston and then got smoked by Dallas, as you mentioned. But you look at their results last season. When they take a big loss, they tend to bounce back. They had a huge 45-point loss to the Wolves at one point, bounced back, won in Utah 2 nights later, which is an extremely tough thing to pull off. And I believe the actual number for them after a loss is 25-9 since last season. So we talked about in the future, it's just Memphis taking every game extremely seriously, ramping up for these games. And that's where I start with their leader, Ja, who's transparently excited when he actually gets to play on national TV, when he actually gets to show people how good he is. And he knows he'll have some eyeballs on him on an 8-game slate here with Brooklyn in town, and there's nobody out there who could stop him. So really, I think what I said to you is I like the Ja props, who we're going to talk about in the prop video, more than I like Memphis to necessarily win the game. But I think if I'm leaning away, it's Grizzlies at this small spread more than it is betting the total or anything. I do like Memphis at just -1.
Yeah, for sure. And on all of their stats that you might want to look at this season, it's been 3 games and one of them is wildly skewed by that game in Dallas, that they just got walloped in a bad spot for them for sure. And Dallas coming off a loss that they were really trying to avenge as well in their second game of the season. Nothing really to be too worried about there in that one. They basically took out their starters in the third quarter. So like I said, everything is really skewed, and you're going to see a lot of that come back to earth tonight. I think I might even consider a Memphis alt line here, get maybe around like 3.5, honestly, and get about plus 145, 150 on my money. Feel pretty good about that too, because this Brooklyn team just it doesn't. If it's going to rely on KD to be absolutely wildly extra every single night as he continues to age and has nothing around him, it's just not. This is not the roster built around even a guy like KD, who you'd like to think he sort of, he negates the need to build a roster around him. He's so good, you can just put me and you and Mo on the same squad as him, it'll be fine. But it's not that NBA anymore, and it's not that Eastern Conference anymore either. I think they're going to find that out very quickly this season, as they are right now. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday of this regular season. And until we see you next, happy betting.